Stay away from him. Don't let him pry into our family affairs. And whatever you do, don't let him touch you. No holding hands or anything. There are too many perverts these days, Crab told me. Strike that. You don't need to hear those disgusting details. Just don't let him touch you. What did Mother and Father give you this year? I overheard them talking. They put a check in an envelope for me. It's for expanding my shop in Diagon Alley, and I can also get a flying broom, an adult model. None of that child stuff, a proper one. But if they let me handle the money myself, I'll probably save it until next summer. I hear the Nimbus 2001 is coming out soon, and I don't want to be stuck with a Nimbus 2000 then. What did you get me? I haven't seen it yet as I write this letter. Don't you try to pull a fast one, or you'll pay for it once we're back at school. Meet me on the platform at Hogsmeade Station on the last day of the holidays. I'll be the first to jump off the train. Then we'll meet up and pretend we were in the same compartment the whole time, so Pansy and the others don't ask a million questions. Speaking of which, I went to a lot of trouble covering for you. I had to hide both coming and going, afraid someone would find out you weren't on the train with me. You're a proper idiot for not thinking of that. Good thing I'm clever. Remember, you owe me a big favor, at least as big as the one from that social dance class assessment. See you at school. It's dead boring at home. Sk. If he wrote this much for his essays, Narcissa would probably laugh herself to sleep. Samantha folded the letter carelessly at first, then smoothed it out and slipped it back into the envelope. She'd just been telling Lupin that she hated owing people favors, and now she owed Draco a big favor. The irony wasn't lost on her. It felt like the thing you fear most coming true. She wondered what he'd expect in return this time. If he asks about the shop and business again, she'll tell him more. She also wondered how much longer she could stay with the Malfoys. She absently stroked the guinea pig tucked under her hand. It was bigger and plumper than a mouse, and, mercifully, tailless, which made it less disgusting and a little clumsy in an endearing way. What she'd given Draco was a broom maintenance kit, practical and likely useful when he bought a broom next year. It didn't feel like a flirtatious present. Still, Samantha couldn't help feeling a touch inconsiderate toward Draco after reading how much trouble he'd gone to. The holiday itself had been quiet and pleasant. Lupin must have been a top student at Hogwarts. He could answer every homework question she asked without breaking a sweat. He'd also taught her the Patronus charm, just as he promised, but the spell proved far harder than she'd expected. All she could manage was a faint cobwebby glow at the tip of her wand, nowhere near enough to repel a Dementor, and she couldn't tell what form her Patronus might take. Lupin was unfailingly patient. "Don't be impatient. Take your time," he told her. "This spell is especially difficult, but you're talented and you will learn it." On the last day of the holidays, as he walked with her toward the platform to see her off, he offered one last piece of advice. "Remember the trick," Remus said. "Try to focus on happy memories, joyful moments from your life. That will help when you cast your Patronus." Many thanks to Chang for becoming a member and making this extra chapter possible. It's been a long wait. 162. Happiness bonus chapter. "It's fine," Samantha said. "Although it's a bit difficult to learn, there aren't any Dementors at Hogwarts that I need to deal with right away." She smiled, then added, "I think my next priority should be a rat. Ron Weasley's rat, of course." She was still holding the guinea pig's cage. The pet was named Apple, simple and plain, not disgusting and not too silly. Remus Lupin listened, then spoke up. "Actually, you could ask Dumbledore to handle it," he advised earnestly. "He can be trusted, especially in this matter. If he knew the truth, he'd want to bring Peter to justice more than anyone." "He can be trusted," Samantha repeated softly. "To what extent, though? I always feel like he can see through some of my thoughts. To be honest, that feeling is very uncomfortable." She hesitated. "And after the Dark Lord disappeared, he never really bothered with you in Sirius again, did he? He let you wander outside and didn't seriously investigate what happened back then." "Don't think that way," Lupin said to comfort her. "He is great, but he is also human. He can't be everywhere. Don't be too demanding of him. If you really don't like him, I can speak to him and avoid mentioning your background for a while. But with his help, catching Wormtail would be very simple, and Sirius's situation would be easier. Forget it. I'll tell him. Samantha pursed her lips. If you think he's trustworthy, I trust you. She thought, though, that Dumbledore had probably already guessed most of her past. The deep red train gave a long whistle and rumbled away, trailing clouds of white steam. Lupin raised a hand. Well then, perhaps we'll see each other again in the summer. He waved and melted into the shadowed recesses of the platform. I hope we both have good news for Sirius. For Sirius, Samantha echoed softly, and for Regulus. Lupin watched her slip out of sight behind a pillar so she couldn't be seen from the train windows, then run over the moment a blond boy jumped from the carriage. It looked as if they'd arranged it beforehand. The two walked toward the carriages, talking as if they'd just stepped off together. Lupin stayed in the shadows for a long time until the train and carriages were out of sight. Then he slowly made his way back to his small cabin. Samantha hadn't said much about how she had grown up or how the people who raised her had treated her. Lupin thought back to the way she'd cast the Patronus charm. Normally, even if someone couldn't summon a fully formed Patronus at first, with practice they could at least send out a silvery white mist. From Samantha's wand, only wisps slid, thin as white spider silk. Had she never known the kind of intense happiness that feeds a Patronus? If she had suffered a hard life or even abuse, he couldn't ignore it. Even if he did nothing, Sirius would never let it rest. Where to begin? Perhaps by checking the list of new Slytherin students this year, and by looking into those two boys, the blonde one and the dark-skinned one. Sirius would certainly want to know. Author's note. Many thanks to 132-978-945-116045 for becoming a member and adding an extra chapter. It's been a long wait. 163. Makeup. In late January, after heavy snow, Scotland settled into a long stretch of gloomy, rainy weather. The grounds turned to mud, and a damp, cold mist seemed to seep right through people's shirts. Even care of magical creatures for third years and up had been moved into castle classrooms. Unless it was absolutely necessary to go out to the greenhouses for herbology, no one wanted to leave the castle. Still, whenever the Slytherin Quidditch team went out to train, Draco would look after them with a mixture of grumbling and envy. By summer, I'm buying a Nimbus 2001, he said for the 300th time since the holidays. Then I'll join the team in my second year. Quidditch, Quidditch, broom, broom, Quidditch, Samantha muttered. My ears are practically calloused. She fed her guinea pig lazily and wondered how she was going to talk to Dumbledore. He hadn't been seen at school for over half a month. Draco glared at the fluffy, fat creature. Don't you always carry that mouse around? Are you looking down on something you gave me? Samantha asked, lifting the apple up to Draco's face. The little animal thrashed its four stubby legs and clung tightly to her hand. I don't parade that golden furball you gave me around the common room every day just to be an eyesore, Draco sniffed. Anyway, he added, you said you'd come watch me when the time comes. Don't deny it. When did I say that? Samantha asked, genuinely unsure. November, right before the first Quidditch match last semester, Draco reminded her immediately. You said they didn't play as well as I would, and you said you'd definitely come to see me play when I'm on the field next year. Blaise Zabini strolled over to their sofa with a lazy smile. Instead of daydreaming about Quidditch, maybe you should first check whether you've done anything wrong. Professor Snape wants to see you in his office, he said, still smiling. I hope you'll be as cheerful when you get back. Did he say why? Draco asked, sitting up a little too quickly. Who knows? Blaise said, his grin deepening when he saw Draco's expression. You'd better go. Don't keep him waiting. Draco smoothed his perfectly neat hair and left with a puzzled look. Blaise sat down beside Samantha, though not so close as to make her uncomfortable. From this distance, he could still smell her perfume. So, are we reconciled? He asked. Samantha smiled. I still have to thank you for covering for me and Uncle Rosier at the train station earlier. In truth, Blaise hadn't done anything unforgivable. He'd made her uncomfortable before, but not enough to sever their friendship. He'd written on his card that they were still friends, and that was how she chose to read it. I guessed you might need to do things behind Draco's and the Malfoy family's backs, Blaise said bluntly. Is it going smoothly? More or less, Samantha replied. 164. In a hurry. The common room wasn't the best place for conversation, so they didn't talk much. Most of the evening was spent bent over their transfiguration essays. It wasn't until dinner that Draco turned up at the Slytherin table in high spirits, a piece of parchment in his hand. "This is Professor Snape's list of key topics for potions this term," he said, waving the paper. "He's included some reference books, too." He whispered to Samantha, voice bright with a private victory. "Father asked him to help me with my studies, and he said my Christmas essay was very good, gave me an O. You got an O, too. I saw yours." "Shall we go to the library after dinner, then?" Samantha asked, glancing toward the staff table. Dumbledore had finally appeared in his tall chair. He had been absent for much of the night. "By the way," Draco went on, lowering his voice, "I've heard Potter and his lot have been spending a lot of time in the library recently. Not sure what they're looking up. We can always go see." He smirked. "Besides, I learned a new spell in Father's study over Christmas. I've been wanting to try it on someone." "Draco," Samantha began, annoyed. She didn't want him always aiming at Harry. No good would come of it. She shot a quick look at Blaise across the table, and seeing he wasn't interested in intervening, let the complaint trail off. Boys were impossible, always posturing, always showing off. She followed the others out of the Great Hall and up the twisting staircase toward the library. From a little way up, she saw Dumbledore a turn or two behind them, quietly following. The sight made her pulse quicken. Sirius was still in Azkaban, and she had no opportunity at all to speak with Dumbledore alone. She had to keep up appearances with Draco and the others. If she didn't seize a chance now, the headmaster might vanish again for weeks. She could write and ask for a private meeting, but how would she explain being called away alone to Draco and the others? The last time Dumbledore had summoned her privately, she had used the flying class incident as an excuse. This time, she had nothing. Panic narrowed her choices until only one foolish plan remained. She waited until Draco bent to study the list. Then, steeling herself, she launched herself over the stair railing. It was a dreadfully stupid thing to do. Her back and arms slammed hard against the steps, pain flared, and she feared she'd cracked a shoulder blade. She hit the stairs badly. She was certain something would be broken, yet she had the small consolation of falling exactly where she intended. She tumbled straight to the base of the staircase and landed directly in front of Dumbledore. From above came Draco's sharp gasp and the sound of hurried footsteps. Dumbledore was already kneeling at her side. "Oh my," he said calmly. "We must get you to the hospital wing at once." He waved his wand and examined her carefully, then turned to the students and told them to make way. "Headmaster Dumbledore." Samantha grabbed the last few seconds before Draco could reach them. Pain lancing through her shoulder, she forced the words out. "Please, come to the hospital wing tonight. I have something important to tell you. Please make sure you come. It's very important." 165. Fracture. Dumbledore blinked his pale blue eyes but said nothing. Draco finally came rushing down the stairs, a few strands of hair mussed and making him look oddly comic. "What happened to you? How do you fall walking? Can you even stand? Where does it hurt?" he demanded. He crouched on the floor, reaching to help Samantha up, but unsure how, sweat beading on his forehead. "It's one thing to step on someone's foot while dancing, but falling down the stairs? Are your legs just for show?" he went on, flustered. "Did someone push you? Who? Was it Peeves? Tell me. Did you see?" Samantha watched his lips move and felt the guilt that had been simmering inside her swell. Draco's face was paler than usual, as if he himself were nursing a broken bone. "We must take her to Madame Pomfrey first," Dumbledore said softly, gently cutting Draco off. He levitated Samantha with a light charm. Fortunately, the hospital wing wasn't far. Madame Pomfrey set her in a bed before Draco could continue interrogating her. "I can mend the bones with a spell," Madame Pomfrey said briskly as she bustled over, peering at Samantha. "Let me see. There are a few places." "Of course, Poppy, but I think it best she stays here for the night," Dumbledore finished for her. Samantha breathed a small, private relief. "Very well, then," Madame Pomfrey muttered. "I'll set your bones and then give you a draught of peace so you'll sleep. Hopefully that will help your coordination." "I'll leave her with you, Poppy." Dumbledore said. I must get back to my office and those endless parchments and signatures. He exchanged a brief look with Samantha and glided out of the hospital wing. Draco dragged a chair over and sat by her bed. Honestly, he said, dropping into it, you really are a pain. Aren't you going to the library? Samantha asked. Madame Pomfrey must have given her something. The pain had dulled enough for her to speak clearly. With you like this? What library am I going to? Draco snapped, furious. Of course I'm staying here tonight. Think carefully. If someone pushed you, I'll write to my father right away. No one pushed me, Samantha said. Before she finished, another boy bustled into the hospital wing. Samantha, are you all right? I heard you were hurt. Who told you that, Chocolate Frog? Draco barked, leaping up to shoo him away. Whether she's hurt or not is none of your business. She needs to rest. It may not be my business, but it is yours, Blaze Zabini retorted, not backing down. She was fine at dinner. How do you fall down the stairs before even reaching the library with you? Madame Pomfrey emerged from her small office, wand in one hand, a potion in the other. Both of you, out. Now, she said, her patience gone. Did you hear that? Get out! Draco pointed at Blaze. You too, get out! Madame Pomfrey snapped, stern as a matron could be. The hospital wing is not for companions, and certainly not for overnight stays. Leave this instant, or I will notify your head of house and have you escorted away. 166. Night Talk, bonus chapter. Thinking of their head, Blaze and Draco's expressions changed at the same time. Samantha mouthed, "Let's go," to them from her bed, and waved her uninjured hands slightly. At last, the world was quiet, and the hospital wing had returned to its usual calm. Madame Pomfrey set Samantha's bones quickly, and she fell into a deep sleep almost as soon as she swallowed the draught of peace. When she woke, it was well into the night. Outside the window, the wind rustled coldly, and everything else outside was dark. Only a soft yellow wall lamp near her bed was lit, casting light across her pillow, and a purple robe embroidered with stars folded at the bedside. I'm sorry to have woken you, a gentle voice said beside her. But you mentioned earlier you had something very important to discuss, something important enough that you were willing to injure yourself? Thank you for coming, Samantha said. She sat up with some difficulty and found the pain in her bones had nearly vanished. You once told me I could come to you if I needed help, and I do. I need your help with Black. For agreeing to come in the middle of the night to listen to an 11-year-old, Dumbledore seemed as trustworthy as Lupin had said. Samantha spent about half an hour telling him everything, from when she hired Lupin at 6 years old to their visit to Azkaban over the Christmas holiday. So I have to get Ron Weasley's rat and confirm whether it is Peter Pettigrew, she finished, taking a breath. And we'll need more than that. Even if we catch the rat, only your influence and coordination at the Ministry of Magic can truly clear Sirius's name. Dumbledore had listened quietly. At last he sighed. I truly hadn't realized they had changed their secret keeper back then. His pale blue eyes shone with something Samantha couldn't read. If you need proof, Remus is in Hogsmeade right now, Samantha added quickly. You can see him anytime. Sirius is innocent, she went on. And even if the Weasley rat isn't Peter, we can keep looking for other evidence. I believe what you're telling me, Samantha, Dumbledore interrupted and patted the pillow she leaned on reassuringly. Sirius is very fortunate. If it weren't for you, I don't know how much more of the truth from back then I would have missed. I've been thinking, perhaps my trust in them was far from enough, not even as much as yours was when you were 6. Because he's a Black? Samantha's voice was very soft. You say you believe me, but I am also a Black, and a Slytherin Black at that. Trust is a very complicated thing, Dumbledore said. The more one must carry on their shoulders, the harder it is to give complete trust easily, because one no longer represents only oneself. Every decision affects many others. He stood up, let Samantha lie back down, and turned the wall lamp to its dimmest setting. But at least I believe that, regarding Sirius, you and I both want to uncover the truth. I think I can persuade Ron to lend me his pet for a few days. Author's note. Many thanks to Hip Hop Meow for becoming a member and adding another chapter. Thanks for waiting. 167. Leglocker Curse, bonus chapter. Dumbledore's finger seemed to move, and at the same time not. Samantha felt her eyelids growing heavy again, involuntarily. With the matter handed over to Dumbledore, half her worries eased. A faint rustle of robes drifted away. Dumbledore had left. Just before sleep took her, a question slipped into her mind. Did Dumbledore have anyone he trusted completely? Who would that person be? She couldn't ponder it long. Sleep closed over her. The next morning at the Slytherin table, Draco kept making Samantha extend her arm and rotate her wrist, as if to make sure she hadn't suffered any lasting damage. Samantha snapped, "If you make me do any more ridiculous exercises, you might as well cast Tarantallegra on me." Pansy smirked across the table like she was watching a performing monkey. Draco grinned. "That's not a bad idea. If you step on my shoes the next time you dance, I just might. Maybe then I'll get stepped on a few less times." "Who wants to dance with you? Besides, there haven't been any balls lately," Samantha said, lowering her head to attack the apple pie that only appeared once every 2 weeks. "There will be when we go home," Draco said, a little excited. "Mother and Father said they're throwing me another birthday party this summer. Maybe they can combine mine and yours. Since we're still at school in early June, if we had one here, it would probably be pushed back to July or August anyway." Samantha paused, her fork hanging in midair, but Draco was on a roll. "Speaking of clumsy feet, Longbottom's top of the list right now. I didn't run into Potter and the others in the library last night, but I ran into Longbottom. I treated him to a leg locker curse. He hopped away like a rabbit." Pansy gave a delighted squeal, and Crabbe and Goyle started miming hopping. Encouraged, Draco went on, "I don't know why Gryffindor keeps him. At least they could have some backbone, but Longbottom didn't even try to resist. So dull." "Draco," Samantha put down her cutlery, "could you walk me back to the common room? I want to get something." "Oh, so now not only are your hands broken and your feet clumsy, but your head doesn't remember things either?" he teased. Despite the complaint, he abandoned his dessert and helped her up. The first wave of students finishing breakfast was already leaving the Great Hall. Voices rolled ahead, Harry Potter and Ron Weasley. Ron's tone was half incredulous, half pleased. "I thought Dumbledore was going to call you, but he called me instead." "I just don't know what he wants to borrow Scabbers for," Ron added. "It'll be fine. Dumbledore won't hurt him," Harry replied with certainty. Author's note: don't focus too much on the leg locker curse. It's in the original. People grow and change. That doesn't happen overnight. Draco has already done far less in this book. I'll explain later why Draco cast that spell on Neville. He doesn't prank people just for fun. Many thanks to Ye Xiao Tong for over 500 flowers. An extra chapter has been added. Sorry for the wait. 168. Jump Out. Bonus chapter. That's true. Dumbledore isn't one of those awful Slytherins. Ron sniffed indignantly. Neville didn't even want to come down for breakfast this morning, all because of Malfoy. We should tell Professor McGonagall about this. Draco started forward, ready to retort, but Samantha grabbed his arm and held him back. In the time it took him to blink, Ron and Harry had already turned the corner of the stairwell and were out of sight. "Why are you pulling me?" Draco demanded, annoyed. "Is this your old refrain about not going against Potter again?" Samantha said. "You know I'm right," she added, moving him to a secluded windowsill. She sat down and tugged him after her. "Whether you admit it or not, Hogwarts, this whole place, is like a book. Harry Potter is the protagonist, the hero, the celebrity with a halo. You've read enough stories. What happens to the characters who keep opposing the protagonist?" Draco glared at her. Samantha kept on, patient. "What you need to do isn't always to fight that protagonist. You need to jump out of the book, step out of the story where Potter is the center of everything." "Jump?" Draco scoffed. "How do you suppose I jump? Jump like Longbottom after a leg locker curse, or hop like a chocolate frog?" "You know exactly what I mean," Samantha said. "Don't pretend you don't." She took his hand and made him meet her eyes. "I'm not lecturing. We're the same age. I just want you to understand that Harry Potter isn't the only person worth paying attention to. When we leave this school, you'll have a much bigger future. You will be head of the Malfoy family someday. Harry can't be the savior forever. You have your own path, and he has his. You'll become strangers, maybe never see each other after graduation. Don't always let Potter control your attention and your emotions." Draco's face brightened suddenly. as if a revelation had struck. "You're right," he exclaimed. "I am the future head of the Malfoys. What is Potter? Nothing. Look at him in class. He's hopeless. He might as well end up a shop clerk." He grinned with glee. "And when that day comes, if he begs me, I'll hire him to scoop ice cream in my shop. What do you think?" "Says who?" Samantha protested, uncomfortable. She didn't mean Harry would be destitute. He had family and inheritance. But Draco was clearly enjoying the fantasy of Harry's fall. "You're absolutely right," Draco went on, thrilled with the image. "When Potter's 40 or 50 and telling tall tales in a dingy place like the Leaky Cauldron, he'll probably boast that he once argued with the head of the Malfoy family. He'll be proud, but I'll be embarrassed. That's completely unacceptable." "Draco," Samantha interrupted, forcing him off his flight of fancy. "No matter what he does in the future, whether he ends up important or something else, that's not the point. I just wanted to say, many thanks to you, Tiantian, for becoming a member and adding an extra chapter. It's been a long wait." 169, Longbottom, chapter. "Yes, you just want me not to bother Potter," he pouted. "It's the same old story in the end. Father would say it's unwise to make an enemy of a celebrity like him." Samantha was relieved that Draco was at least willing to hear her out. "I'm not saying you shouldn't retaliate," she added quickly. "I just don't think it's necessary to go out of your way to make enemies. If he provokes you, of course you can answer him, or on the Quidditch pitch, beat him properly." "You're on my side then?" Draco asked, staring at her. "Of course," Samantha said without hesitation. Draco considered it, then sighed. "Fine. As long as Potter and Weasley behave, I'll pretend they don't exist." He sounded as if he'd wrestled with the decision. Samantha tilted her head. "How did Longbottom annoy you again yesterday?" At that question, his patience snapped. "You're going to meddle in Potter's affairs, and Longbottom's too?" Draco barked. "Why don't you just go to Gryffindor and see if they'll take in a nag like you?" Samantha's expression softened. "You did it for me, didn't you?" Draco bristled. "Who said that? What does any of this have to do with you?" For a fraction of a second, his face betrayed him before he masked it. "I just can't stand that idiot, that's all." Samantha pressed on. "Miss Malfoy clumsily fell down the stairs and spent a night in the hospital wing. You thought that would embarrass me, that people would laugh at me, right?" She felt she had the thread. "So you deliberately made an even bigger target to distract them, to get them to mock Longbottom instead." "I did not," Draco snapped. "I just can't stand Longbottom. Who says I did it for you? Don't be so conceited." He stood, smoothed his robes, and avoided her eyes. "Hurry up. Don't you still need to get something?" "Yes." Samantha rose too and, pretending to stumble, nearly fell. Draco hurried to steady her. He started to ask if she was still sore, if anything hurt, but then he noticed the smile she gave him. "Thank you, Draco," she said sincerely. Despite his methods, he had acted for her. The Potter matter was resolved for now. Neville Longbottom could wait. "Who wants your thanks?" Draco muttered, and shook off her arm in a show of irritation. But he didn't walk away. He waited for her to fall into step beside him. "Don't forget, you still owe me a huge favor," he said. "I helped cover up a rather big thing at Christmas. Don't think you'll get off that easily." Samantha hadn't forgotten. He'd helped her on the train and even lied for her in front of Lucius and Mrs. Malfoy. Even if he never mentioned it, she intended to repay him. She just didn't know how long she'd be with the Malfoys or what would become of them both. "Have you thought about what you'll ask for yet?" she said, half joking, half serious. "Be careful, the favor might expire." Draco scoffed. "I haven't thought of it yet, but don't go back on your word. Expire? I don't acknowledge that." He sounded as stubborn as ever. "Until I actually make the demand, it never expires." Author's note: many thanks to Wen Jixiai for becoming a member, adding an extra chapter. Sorry for the wait. 170. Died. The next few weeks were very calm. There were no oddities with the Malfoys, and everything with Lupin went smoothly. Draco, it seemed, still hadn't decided how he wanted Samantha to repay him, dragging the matter out indefinitely. Samantha began to plan for her future. She checked her accounts more and more often, considered ways to earn money once she left the Malfoy household, kept an eye on shops in Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, and even in Muggle commercial areas. and made time to research methods for freeing house elves. She knew Draco could probably free Dobby if he wanted to, but she had already lied to him so many times that she didn't want to be pulled into that kind of scheme by him. Even if she did want to free Dobby, she'd rather conspire against Narcissa and Lucius. With no major events at school, people's attention inevitably turned to the nerds, the oddballs, and the idiots. Compared to Neville Longbottom, Professor Quirrell received far more attention. His twitching, incoherence, and flustered manner became the inevitable topic of conversation after class. But Harry Potter and his friends were acting strangely. They went around urging everyone not to mock Quirrell's stutter and timidity. Draco snorted as they passed down a corridor. "Oh, Harry Potter, the righteous hero. Did you see that silly grin on Weasley's face?" he muttered. He was actually grinning at Quirrell. "Maybe he misses his rat," Samantha said, "or maybe getting a gift from the headmaster just made him giddy." She was in a good mood. A few days earlier at breakfast, Dumbledore had gone over to the Gryffindor table to announce the unfortunate demise of Ron's rat. "I am very sorry, Ron," Dumbledore had said. "Perhaps I fed it too many sweets. It never woke up after falling asleep." Ron looked despondent, but managed bravely. "It's okay. He was old anyway. Maybe for a rat, dying in its sleep after eating too much is a happy way to go. I have buried it, but to make up for it, I must give you a gift," Dumbledore said, producing a bird cage from behind him. Inside was a lively little owl. "Although a new pet might not replace your old companion," Ron brightened instantly. "You're giving this to me?" "Of course," said Dumbledore, beaming. Samantha felt his blue eyes flick toward her, but before she could be sure, Dumbledore carried on speaking to Harry and his friends. Later that day, she received a letter from Lupin, disguised as a mail order form. Dumbledore had sent the rat away from the school and, most importantly, had restored it to human form. It was Peter Pettigrew. With both human testimony and physical evidence, Dumbledore only had a few more formalities to handle at the Ministry, and the Wizengamot, Sirius, should have good news within a few months. Small note, at this time, Harry and his friends believed Snape was coercing Quirrell to obtain the Philosopher's Stone, and that Quirrell was resisting him, so they were trying to encourage Quirrell. Every time Samantha saw Ron Weasley, she couldn't help picturing his face if he ever found out that the rat he'd slept beside for half a year was actually a big, grown man. The weather had finally turned. The clouds thinned, the sun warmed the earth, and the mud had given way to fresh green grass. During the Easter break, children were taking frisbees out into the grounds or lying by the Black Lake, pretending to study while watching the pretty girls go by. Most Slytherins, though, had already started revising. No one wanted to return home with a bad report. In pure blood circles, summer conversation was almost entirely about exam results, and a child who embarrassed their parents could expect a long season of whispered disapproval. A few had given up almost immediately. Crabbe and Goyle would be out cold 5 minutes after sitting down in the library, snoring so loudly that Draco didn't bother bringing them along anymore. "Do you think Transfiguration will test ladybugs or rats?" Draco asked, voice tight. Samantha looked up from a pile of notes about Dittany and stretched her neck. "I'd say rats." "You should take a break," she added. "You've been here 4 hours already today." "No," Draco said, shaking his head. "I still have 2 chapters of History of Magic to go." He gathered a heap of parchment covered in cramped handwriting and pulled out a book as thick as a brick, muttering to himself as he flipped the pages. Samantha felt a small, weary compassion for him. She didn't need to fight for top marks. The difference between 3rd and 30th mattered little to her, but Hermione Granger's relentless studiousness made Draco's pressure worse. "Sometimes the process matters more than the result," she said softly. "Father and Madam would be pleased to see you working like this." Draco's shoulders tightened. "Pleased," he repeated, the word brittle. "Pleased isn't nearly enough. The result is what matters. I'm not like you, I am." He caught himself and fell silent. "You are the Malfoy family's sole heir," Samantha supplied, but she smiled instead of bristling. She'd long since stopped assuming offense at the reminders. It was nothing new to her. Draco's voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible. "I'll share a part of it with you," he said. Samantha didn't catch it. He cleared his throat. Nothing, just get back to your book. Draco glanced at the ring on his finger and then at the one on Samantha's, a much cheaper band, and his mouth tightened for a moment before he turned his attention back to his notes. A low, rumbling voice drifted over from between the tall bookshelves a short distance away. All right, listen. Find me later, yeah? But I didn't promise to tell you anything. Hagrid kept his words low and rough. There's some stuff students shouldn't know. Folks'll think I told you if I say too much. His heavy footsteps retreated, and the sound faded away. 172. Inquire. Let's go see what books Hagrid was just looking at. Ron's voice carried across the table. Harry muttered, "Oh my God," as a small stack of books thudded onto the wood. This is illegal, isn't it? We'll go check on Hagrid in a bit, Hermione said. They hurriedly packed their things and left the library. Good opportunity, Draco began, watching them go. What good opportunity? Samantha asked, her chest tightening. Draco's eyes gleamed. Of course, it's a good opportunity to eliminate rivals. He smiled, cruel and calculating. Potter and his friends are clearly involved in something against the rules, maybe even illegal. If I catch them and that half-giant red-handed, think about it. No more annoying competition. Hagrid expelled, Potter withdrawn, Granger unable to sit her exams. Brilliant. You're planning to get first place like that? Samantha asked. I only want to be first, Draco replied, clenching his fist. This time, they're the ones doing the wrong thing. Over the next 2 weeks, the workload at Hogwarts intensified. Professors piled on more and more assignments, sharpening the end-of-term atmosphere. The pressure of finals began to follow the students like a shadow. But Draco did not spend his days buried in textbooks and practicing spells so obsessively anymore. He began looking for chances to find out what Harry and his friends were up to. His mood improved, and the red veins under his eyes faded. Samantha wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or more worried. One morning after breakfast, she and Draco left the Great Hall and saw the trio ahead, holding a scrap of paper between them. Hermione, how many chances in our lives will we get to see a hatch? Ron said, clearly tempted to skip class. We have to go to class, or we'll get in trouble. If anyone finds out what Hagrid's doing, he'll be in big trouble. Hermione objected. Stop talking, Harry warned in a low voice. He glanced warily toward Draco and Samantha, pulled the others along, and hurried away. We have to follow them, Draco said. It must be today, maybe this morning. They're definitely going to cause some trouble. Weasley doesn't even want to go to class, Draco muttered. But they're still heading toward class. Look, they're going toward the greenhouses, Samantha pointed out. Then it will be during break, or at lunch, Draco decided, bright with anticipation. We can lie in wait near that little wooden hut, and as soon as they get close, we'll catch them red-handed. Aren't you going to study? Samantha asked, shaking the copy of 1,000 Magical Herbs and Fungi that was stuffed with colored bookmarks. It already held all the important points Snape had lectured on, plus notes from Theodore and Daphne, precious study material. Let's go to the lake, Draco said, having found a plan that served both purposes. Find a big tree where we can see the hut and still study. They walked shoulder to shoulder toward the black lake, sunlight catching their almost identical pale gold hair, making it shimmer in a pleasing, harmonious way. They did not notice the dark-skinned boy standing in the shadow of the castle, watching them and quietly cracking his knuckles. 103. Dark Chocolate. Blaise Zabini's Perspective. Ever since that unpleasant encounter with Samantha in the library, Blaise knew he'd made a terrible move. He had meant to let her know he knew her secret, to use it subtly to draw her closer, to make her trust and depend on him, but he had not expected that his intrusive probing of her defenses would only anger her and push her further away. He was usually calm, proud of a cool intelligence and a calculating composure beyond his peers. That day, he had been uncharacteristically flustered. He'd said things he shouldn't have, even dragged Draco Malfoy into it. Samantha had protested that they were only 11 and hadn't thought about anything. She had never given him anything beyond the bounds of friendship, while she was completely unguarded with Draco. They'd grown up together since infancy, spending every day in each other's company, knowing everything about each other. Their bond was naturally different from his, a friend he could only contact through letters. But watching Draco lean in and whisper to her like that, how was he to remain calm? He felt angry, though he couldn't tell if the anger was aimed at himself, at Draco, or at her. He wanted to draw his wand and strike someone, to teach them a lesson the way he'd shown Marcus Flint once, but all he could do was stew in the silence of his failure. Fortunately, his mother's letter put him back on track. Girls are like golden sand. The tighter you grasp, the more they slip through your fingers. Use your rivals to make yourself shine. Don't force her to come to you. He understood, and he acted on it. On the Hogsmeade platform, seeing Draco's ceaseless questions, he took the initiative to smooth things over for Samantha. Sure enough, after Christmas she reconciled with him. She wore the perfume he had given her, as if marked by him, and that possessive satisfaction intoxicated him. Perhaps it was too soon to call it love, but he knew he liked her. He wanted her eyes to fall only on him, to keep other men away. Yet she remained so close to Draco. He was merely an expendable friend to her. At least still a friend, he had written on the card. When he wrote at least, meaning at least a friend, it was not humility, it was ambition. He wanted more. Draco was the future head of the Malfoy family. Blaise was, in name, already head of the Zabini family, though his mother handled their affairs until he came of age. He would assume full control at 17. He was wealthy and handsome. His prospects were every bit as good, and in some ways better, than Draco's. He was not entangled with the Dark Lord like the Malfoys, nor saddled with complicated relatives or unsavory connections that were difficult to explain. He could give her the very best. She was worthy of him, intelligent, beautiful, of noble blood, and both he and his mother approved of her. She had to belong to him. It might take time, but he could wait. He resolved to stop pressuring her. Instead, he would be her ally, a considerate friend, appearing at precisely the right moment whenever Draco slipped. If Draco did not slip on his own, Blaise would, if necessary, engineer the chance. He would let Samantha see who was composed and perfect, and who was impulsive and childish. Lately, Draco seemed to have found some leverage against Potter. At that thought, Blaise smiled. Draco, how could you be certain no one is waiting to catch your mistakes? Author, many thanks to a friend for subscribing. Here's an extra chapter. Sorry for the wait. When Samantha and Draco peered through the window of Hagrid's hut and saw the cracked dragon egg, she didn't know whether to admire Gryffindor's bravery or call them outright fools. A dragon? Hatching a dragon? A Norwegian ridgeback that could grow to 50 feet right inside the school? As Draco tugged her back toward the castle, she swore that if he wanted to tell a professor about it, she wouldn't object this time. She expected him to take the sensible route. Instead, Draco had other plans. I'll wait until Potter and the others are really deep in it, he said. Then I'll catch them all in one swoop. We were discovered when we peaked that day, Samantha protested. If they're clever, they'll go straight to a professor and get the dragon dealt with, or at least stop going to Hagrid's hut. Draco sneered. Do you think the word clever has anything to do with Gryffindor? Samantha opened her mouth to retort and found, to her annoyance, that there was an unfortunate truth to it. The Potter trio only went to Hagrid's more often after that, and it wasn't long before Ron Weasley got his hand bitten, the wound swelling an ugly, sickly green. We have to tell a professor now, Samantha insisted. If you want them punished severely, tell Snape. Draco tucked the book he'd pulled from Ron under his arm and smiled with the confidence of a plan working itself out. Samantha assumed he'd find a moment after class to knock on Snape's door and lay everything out. But by Sunday morning, she had the unpleasant news. Draco had detention and had 20 points taken from Slytherin. How did McGonagall catch you? Samantha asked, incredulous as Draco recounted the whole thing. Weren't you going to tell Snape together? I couldn't find a professor that night, Draco muttered, annoyed. So I told Filch, and he caught Potter and the others red-handed. Then Professor McGonagall suddenly appeared around the corner downstairs and said someone had reported a bunch of students wandering the corridors in the dead of night. Blaise Zabini drifted over with that half-smile of his. Peeves probably did it. I think the Bloody Baron should punish him properly, he said. He paused, then added, but I heard some people had 20 points docked in detention. I wonder if Professor Snape will be pleased. Draco lifted his chin and let himself look smug. I only lost 20 points. Potter and his friends lost 150. Now Gryffindor can forget the House Cup, he said. Professor might even praise me when he hears about it. Small note. In the original, Gryffindor lost 150 points because of the dragon incident, and Draco lost 20. Ron was in the hospital wing because his hand was bitten. The Gryffindors who lost points were Harry, Hermione, and Neville, who had gone out to warn Hagrid. All four, Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Draco, were given detention. Ron was not. The book Draco was holding had Charlie Weasley's letter tucked inside. Ron had forgotten to remove it. The letter gave the time and place for the dragon handover, Saturday night. How did Professor McGonagall show up? In this version, well, it was Blaise who made it happen. Author, many thanks to Shooting4848344962 for becoming a member and adding an extra chapter. Sorry for the wait. Author, current extra chapters are caught up to October 31st. Good job? Blaise Zabini drawled, casually peeling an apple with a small silver knife. If I were you, I'd have done a better job, he continued. After such a huge cost, Potter and the others weren't expelled, were they? Draco frowned. A bit of a shame. I'd hoped they would be expelled. If I'd caught Professor Snape that day, they'd probably be on the Hogwarts Express by now. Samantha shook her head. They weren't going to be expelled. Getting rid of the dragon is one thing, but nobody wants a dragon being raised near the school every day. She sounded practical. After all, they were the protagonists of the story. How could they be sent home over something so small? But Professor Snape has been awfully absent lately, hasn't he? Yes, Blaise agreed. He's been very busy, moving about the castle, spending a lot of time on the fourth-floor corridor. He's always talking to Quirrell. He handed half the peeled apple to Samantha and looked at Draco as if baiting him. What do you think is down the right-hand corridor on the fourth floor? Dumbledore won't let us near. Draco waved the question away. I don't care what's there. I need to review. He snatched the apple from Samantha before she could take it and bit into it loudly. Nicely peeled chocolate frog. I didn't realize you had a house elf snack. I've long noticed your talent for being a glutton, Blaise said coolly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cut the apple in half. He handed the other half to Samantha. You've probably stolen so many things from her over the years, you've lost count. Draco laughed through another bite. So, we're family. As for you, he smirked. Maybe in your next life. The 4 hourglasses in the entrance hall were enormous. Normally losing 5 or 10 points barely made a ripple, but when 150 points suddenly drained from the red hourglass, everyone who passed stopped and stared. Gryffindor, once in contention to take the lead, now sat at rock bottom with no realistic chance of winning the House Cup. What cheered the Slytherins even more was that, while Harry Potter, Neville Longbottom, and Hermione Granger hadn't been expelled as Draco had hoped, they were nevertheless being shunned. Almost no Gryffindor would speak to them. Neville and Hermione kept their heads down and said little. Harry, who had once been one of the school's most popular figures, had become the target of open hostility. Even Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs gave him cold looks. They wanted to see 6-time champion Slytherin finally lose the cup. As the three walked through the corridors, fingers pointed and whispers followed them. Some people loudly speculated about the reason for the point deduction. Slytherins applauded and cheered, thanking their housemates for guaranteeing the championship. The charged atmosphere made preparing for finals less tense for Draco and his friends. Draco invented a quiz game. Every evening in the common room, they drew lots and answered questions together. Potion recipes, history of magic, astronomical charts, the essentials of spellcasting. It turned revision into competition and kept spirits high. 176. Confinement. Everyone took turns answering questions, listening to each other, and judging correctness. It was more effective than rote memorization. Besides, no one wanted to lose face in front of their peers. Except for Crabbe and Goyle, nearly all the first years stayed up late each night, hoping to win more rounds the next day. The little game in the common room lasted only a few nights before it was interrupted. At breakfast, Draco received a note from Prefect Gemma. Your detention begins tonight at 11 o'clock. Report to Mr. Filch in the entrance hall. Draco stuffed the gesture examples from spell class away with a sigh. Oh, another night of study wasted, he muttered. Then he looked toward the Gryffindor side, and the expression on his face softened into a smile. Still, Granger and Potter will waste a whole night too. Professor Snape's been busy lately, and Dumbledore's away, so we're even. No one's escaping this detention. Samantha tilted her head. What do you think Filch will make you do? She was a little anxious. He wouldn't make you polish trophies at 11 at night, would he? There were fewer than 7 days until finals. She did not want any surprises. This time, Draco was the only Slytherin in detention. Opposite him sat 3 Gryffindors. Blaise Zabini shrugged. Don't worry, Filch will prefer to pick on Potter. And this is school. No one's going to do anything truly dangerous. Then Blaise changed his tone and smiled at Draco. If you do get bullied, you can always write to your father. Draco snorted, the retort dying on his tongue. Samantha understood immediately the sentence he almost said. You don't have a father. Blaise understood too, his hand holding the fork paused. Samantha gave him an apologetic look. Blaise waved it off with a slight shake of his head to show he was all right. That night, Samantha and Blaise stayed in the common room until late. She was worried about Draco's detention and couldn't bring herself to go to the dormitory and sleep. She decided to keep studying. Blaise said he preferred to study astronomy at night, which Samantha knew was his excuse to stay and keep her company. It wasn't inappropriate, but she still felt awkward. You should go back to your dorm, she said for the 3rd time at midnight. I can wait by myself. Blaise sipped his coffee calmly. My Jupiter orbit chart isn't finished yet, he said. You being here makes me a bit nervous, Samantha admitted. The warm wall lamps, the shimmer of the black lake outside, the candlelight and the quiet corner sofa turned the night into something ambiguously charged. Is it because I memorize things too quickly? Blaise teased, then grew more sincere. I don't mean anything by it, Samantha. I really don't want you sitting here alone, but I also want to make good use of the time to revise. It's easy to fall asleep in the dormitory, and when Draco comes back, there'll probably be a fuss. It's better to study and wait here. Author's note. By the way, in English, both relations translate as niece. Lupin still ends up marrying Sirius's niece. I admit that suggestion has some shipping potential, but I won't pursue it. This book isn't about older men. Let Remus always be Samantha's dependable older guardian. 177. Forest Band. Blaise's reasoning was airtight, and Samantha had no real argument. After all, the common room wasn't hers alone. Maybe she was being oversensitive. She shook her head, took a long swallow of coffee, and lowered her eyes to silently run through the 12 uses of dragon's blood. She didn't notice Blaise watching her hand, frowning at the Malfoy crest ring she always wore, finding it increasingly distasteful. When Draco burst into the common room, drenched, streaked with mist and mud, the clock had already passed 4, and dawn was threatening the sky. Samantha had never seen him like that, panicked and disheveled, his lips and face unnaturally pale, shoes and robe hem caked with mud, the robe torn and snagged on branches. He sat down on the sofa trembling, not bothering to keep up any pretense in front of Blaise. Samantha couldn't think of anything to say, so she refilled her mug and handed it to him. Draco drank it in a single gulp as if it were medicine. Whether it was the coffee or just the warmth, 2 minutes later the color began to come back to his face. Blaise's eyes were hard. What did they make you do? Does someone like Filch actually dare to? It wasn't that, Draco cut in. It wasn't Filch. He clenched his fists and, slowly regaining some control, looked up at Blaise. Why are you here? Want to hear how I got detention so you can laugh at me? Humph, no. Samantha moved to sit beside him. Draco, she said quietly, if there's anything you don't want Blaise to hear, you can leave that out, but you have to tell us what happened in the first place. She glanced at Blaise. We're all Slytherins. We can think this through together. Or we could tell a professor. Draco snorted. I'm fine. Potter should be the one who's miserable. He glared at Blaise, but no longer insisted he leave. His voice was tight. It wasn't about Filch. We were sent into the Forbidden Forest. Hagrid got the detention, and that old oaf actually let Potter and me go alone. He was still visibly angry, edged with lingering fear. Potter and I walked into the woods together. I was worried it wasn't safe, so I even asked for a dog. Hagrid's stupid dog made no difference whether it was there or not. He told it all, halting at first, then more steadily, recalling the night in pieces. Samantha and Blaze's expressions darkened when he mentioned the unicorn. It wasn't just a person, Draco said. It moved like a bat, or more like a beast. It wore a cloak, and I couldn't see what was under it. It leapt out of the bushes at the unicorn that was lying there, went straight for the wound on its side, and started drinking its blood. Blaze pressed him. What happened next? Draco waved a shaking hand. What next? I ran. I turned and ran to find someone, anyone. I don't know what happened after that. Potter and the others were all right, and Hagrid brought us back to the castle. That's all I know. Chapter 178, Massacre, bonus chapter. Samantha figured Draco must have run off as soon as he'd seen that scene. She didn't blame him for it. Blaze hadn't used that as a point to mock. Instead, he grew genuinely pensive. You said Hagrid mentioned the unicorn's been wounded more than once recently? Blaze said in a low voice. Slaughtering unicorns, that's monstrous. Even most dark arts texts avoid talking about it. Unicorns stand for purity, he went on quietly. Plenty of people want their costly hair, and a few know that the blood can save dying people, though it brings a terrible curse with it. Maybe someone would choose a curse over death, Samantha said. Or some creature might be desperate enough to extend its life. That's one reason unicorns are so rare. She glanced at the bit of wand hilt sticking out of Draco's robe. He'd told her the core was unicorn hair. That thought made the whole situation feel worse. Whatever it is in the Forbidden Forest, it's hunting unicorns and drinking their blood, she said. It sounds like a dying thing, but still very powerful and malignant. Or worse, it could be a person hiding among us. A chill ran through the room, and even the temperature seemed to drop. Draco looked shaken. Luckily, exams are in a few days, he said. After that, we'll be home within a week. Don't be alone these next few days, he warned. Stick to crowded places. Don't leave the common room at night, especially you, so small and fragile. That thing would eat you in one bite. He shot Samantha a cautionary look, then softened his tone. If you're worried about nightmares, I have calming potions. I can give them to you. There's no need, Samantha answered. Daphne's been studying all night lately, trying to be evenly matched with Theodore or something. Let's not think about that right now. Shouldn't you tell Professor Snape about what happened in the Forbidden Forest? With him involved, we'd at least be safer. He should know how to deal with whatever it is. All right, Draco said, still unsettled. I'll tell him next time I see him. Day by day, the shadow from the Forbidden Forest seemed to loosen its grip. No more bad news came. No students were attacked. After dinner one evening, Draco told Snape about the forest. Snape didn't look surprised. He only instructed Draco not to spread the story. Maybe the professors have already handled it, Draco guessed. Even if I hadn't mentioned it, Potter and the others would have told someone. There's Hagrid, too. The forest's close. They wouldn't let something run loose there. Seems we don't have to be on edge for now, Samantha said, checking the exam schedule pinned to the common room bulletin board one last time. We should clear our heads and get ready for tomorrow's Defense Against the Dark Arts written exam. Have you noticed something? Draco asked suddenly. What? He turned a little smug. I'm smarter than you now. Just wait and see. My grades will be better than yours, and I'll be stronger than you every year from now on. Many thanks to Yu Tiuting for 2,500 flowers and for adding 5 chapters. Long wait. 1/5. 179. Exam. Bonus chapter. The long stretch of finals dragged on for nearly a week. In the stuffy heat, they had one exam at 9 in the morning and another at 1 in the afternoon every day, plus an astronomy exam one evening. Everyone was wilted, like vegetables left in the sun, too exhausted even to double-check their answers. The only thing keeping Samantha going was the number in her Gringotts account and new schemes for making money. She had forced herself to cut back to checking her balance once a day, using the morning total to pep herself up. While she watched the digits, her mind wandered to ways to get Pansy to cough up 100 galleons for a full set of witch facial masks and brightening eye cream. That thought was stronger than any black coffee. She wasn't about to give up on profiting off the girls. After all, The Malfoys had always been in the clothing business. Why not branch into the girls' future skincare market? Draco's voice dragged her back to the present. Did you hear me? She realized she'd been staring at Pansy. Most of the exams were finished. Now a cluster of Slytherins sat in the common room, sharpening their spears before the last subject, history of magic, crossing their fingers that obscure terms, war accounts, and ancient codes would stay lodged in their heads until tomorrow. Samantha blinked. What did you say? Her head was full of Pansy's face and 20 or 30 types of face masks, hydrating, moisturizing, whitening. In contrast to the werewolf code, nothing else was making any sense. Draco, I said you guessed right. The transfiguration exam this afternoon really was about transfiguring mice. He'd meant to praise her, but when she hadn't been listening, he tried to look reproachful, which gave him a strangely put-out expression. Blaise, interested, piped up. You guessed that beforehand? I just got lucky, Samantha said. My snuff box still had whiskers. I transfigured mine perfectly, Draco said, laughing. But Goyle's snuff box still had a tail dragging behind it. He's definitely in trouble. I wish you'd warned me, Blaise grumbled, flipping through his book. I always worry the snuff box I transfigure will still have a hint of the mouse. Do you think you'll all get an O? He asked. Of course, Draco said at once, then faltered. Well, I might have miscalculated one step of Jupiter's orbit last night. Not sure. And tomorrow's history of magic. I'll bet I'll miss one or two of the 72 greatest magic inventions of the 18th century. He closed his book and leaned in to cram more. Finally, the exams were done. When Professor Binns, as monotonous as ever, floated up from his chair and told everyone to put down their quills, a long, collective sigh of relief went up from every house. The Gryffindors nearest the north windows cheered. The Hufflepuffs, in the middle of the room, were already planning a big celebratory meal. The Ravenclaws prepared to dash back to the library and double-check their answers, and the Slytherins exchanged satisfied, relaxed smiles. Draco, however, hadn't stopped fretting. Guys, was the inventor of the self-stirring cauldron Gaspard Shingleton? I think I misspelled his name. Does Shingleton have an H in it or not? Small note, Hogwarts final exams generally take almost a week. Refer to the third book of the original series, where exam week is mentioned, and Hermione's timetable shows one exam at 9 in the morning and one at 1 in the afternoon each day. Many subjects have theory and practical components. A maximum of 2 subjects can be tested per day, or 3 when there is a night astronomy exam. With 7 compulsory subjects, there are at least 3 days of exams, and after third year, with electives, it can be even longer. Author, this is the second chapter for UT's Extra Update. 180. Housework. More updates. Don't worry, the papers have already been handed in. Samantha leaned against a large tree by the Black Lake, sunlight filtering through the leaves and dappling her face and shoulders. Blaise Zabini lay on the grass a few feet away, eyes half closed, his arms folded behind his head. Yeah, no more studying, he said. We won't get the results for another week, so at least we can sleep properly for a few days. Draco snorted from where he sat nearby. Do you even know what lack of sleep looks like? You've already got dark circles. You wouldn't notice even if you were exhausted. For once, Draco's barbs were more teasing than mean. Blaise gave a light snort and turned his head to look at Samantha. So what are your plans for the holidays? Can you come to my house? Draco immediately replied, She's busy. We're having a birthday party at our house at the end of July. Blaise waved that off. So what? My mother and I will be invited anyway. He sounded unconcerned. Besides, if your family's throwing a party at the end of July, whose is it? Yours or Samantha's? Yours is in June. Hers is in August. What's the difference? Draco started, about to launch into another explanation of how a family shares everything, when Pansy suddenly appeared and cut him off. Can I talk to you alone for a moment? Draco blinked, annoyed. He had thought of 2 perfect replies to Blaise, and now they had evaporated. Why can't you just say it then? Pansy interrupted with a nervous look. It's a private message from my mother. She wants you to pass it on to your mother when you go home. She glanced between Samantha and Blaise. My mother specifically instructed that no one else should know. She didn't send an owl. She wanted me to tell you in person. Draco pouted, but followed Pansy away. Under the tree, only Blaze and Samantha remained. Now we can talk business. I mean the business of business, Blaze said, stretching his legs and inching closer to Samantha. I wanted to thank you, Samantha said. I haven't had to worry too much about money this year, and the dividends from your family's shop have been increasing. Are the new products selling well? This year, most of Samantha's energy had gone into Sirius's affairs. Blaze answered casually, but inside he imagined a future in which even the Zabini house elves would happily follow her recipes and orders. Of course, he said, your ideas are always creative. Our family house elves have gotten used to improving and preparing desserts according to the recipes you've given us over the past few years. Then, more quietly, he asked, May I ask, did you go deal with some family matters at Christmas? There was that man pretending to be a rosier at the time. He paused, immediately backtracking. I'm not trying to pry. I just want to know if everything went smoothly. If you need help, you can always ask. It's fine, Samantha sighed softly. Blaze already knew most of what had happened. Apart from Lupin, Sirius, and Dumbledore, he was one of the few people she could talk to about such things. I did handle some family matters, she admitted. But I think good news might be coming soon. Author, this is the third chapter added for you, Tiga. Author 35.